On that note, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Although it's not on the agenda, we always have owners' comments. So if we have any owners that would like to comment, can you raise your hand for me? Please, sir.
Hi, I'm Dave Finnegan. I've been an owner since 1998. And I sent a memo around in November to all the board members about how we're going to make history again. Because we made history, and Des Cummings and Michael Eisner and Peter Rummel and Joe Barnes and all those folks were dead set on us making history constantly. And we've stopped doing that. And it's reflected on our housing prices. It's reflected in the fact that we're on the list of the 10 worst communities in Central Florida for housing appreciation. And I think we can turn the corner. And I think the way to do it is with a new look at technology, one of our cornerstones. There's a whole world of technology that we aren't exploring, and it's solar. I was speaking day before yesterday with our new Congressman, Darren Soto, and I gave him this laundry list that I had sent to you guys, which I hope you got and maybe looked at, which is a whole bunch of things that we could do in order to go green that would put us really in the catbird seat in Central Florida in terms of properties, that we would be the greenest town in Central Florida. And he said, well, why don't you start with something really easy? And that is, let the CROA board and the town of Celebration decide to put solar panels on the public buildings, buildings that the town owns, and get a PACE grant to do that so that you can do it almost at no cost. Your electric bill will be the same as it would be normally, but you'll be paying for it for sunshine. And in 20 years, you'll own the panels. So that was from Darren Soto himself. He also suggested that we talk to him and to some other people he knows about the possibility of getting Duke Energy to provide a solar field like they've done over at Disney that would provide additional energy to the town and could be actually used by the town to supplement energy that we purchase from Duke. So that's all real doable and real easy. The rest of the things on the list are a little more difficult to do and will take time. But if we start with an initiative like putting solar on our public buildings, I think that would be really helpful. By the way, Darren Soto is now a resident of Celebration. And so I'm one of the oldest residents and he's one of the newest residents. I've got this all written out. I wrote 2 different memos. The first memo was how can we make history again? And then in light of recent events, I changed the title on the second memo to how can we make Celebration great again? So I'm sending these around, and please take one and read it at your leisure. It's also available online, and of course, the links work online. The links don't work on paper.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's something that we'll have, we're going to be discussing board strategies, and that will be one of the highlights too. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. And if you need me to help in any way, I do go around to schools all over the country with a program called Climate Changes Elementary. I don't do them in Florida because Florida isn't ready for this yet, but I've done these programs in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Colorado, and at the end of it, the families all fill out a Green Action checklist, and you've got a copy now of the checklist. And then we help the families go down the checklist with our new podcast program, which is called Green Action. So I'm happy to volunteer to do whatever I can to help.
Thank you very much.
This is my town.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Ms. Scipio, you had raised your hand.
Good evening. My name's Kathleen Scipio, and I've been a resident in Celebration since 2010. And I want to just thank you, the CROA board. I know we see you at these workshops and everything, but I know there's lots of hidden hours that you give our town, so thank you. I'm here tonight on behalf of La Crosse. I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is our town is full of many elementary and middle school children that love the sport. So much so that we have come to the point where we can have 2 types of teams in our town, a competitive league and a recreational league. I'm specifically here tonight to introduce a new club that has formed from the original Celebration Lacrosse Club. That club has gone more competitive with administration from the Dodgers, for their spring 2017 season. And I believe they remain a sole proprietorship under LRC. However, more than a few parents from the league wanted to form a community-based recreational nonprofit, which we did. They wanted full transparency of our finances, they wanted to know where their fees were going, and they wanted more community involvement on behalf of the parents and the children. So we formed the Celebration Phoenix Lacrosse Club, and we currently have a winter program with 22 girls. We drive an hour for game play, so we definitely understand the town's limitation of having teams come here to play with us, but we need somewhere to practice 2 days a week. Right now, since Celebration Lacrosse Club doesn't have a winter program, we are at East Lawn Fields. For the spring 2017 season, we are, for lack of better wording, homeless. We have met with Carlos, we have met with Town Hall, and we are trying to come up with a solution. We need 2 days a week, preferably at East Lawn, because the lines and the crease to teach new players, but we are willing to look at all different scenarios.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll have a strategy meeting, we have our discussion about our strategic plan and community involvement, and the rec plan will be discussed in there too, so.
And Steve, have you invited their organization to the rec meeting? Or let her know about that?
For the next Monday, the 23rd?
I think there was one that we had discussed that. I think you have that on your calendar. Great.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Ms. Barr?
Hi, Eileen Barr, 1138 Mosaic Drive. I'm speaking here basically as a member of the Special Events Committee. We are working on the dog park, and it's very fulfilling, and we're having a wonderful time, and if anybody hasn't bought their bricks or tiles yet, plenty of time to do so. And we're hoping that at least some of them will be in before the park opens. I don't know if Steve knows that. Anyway, the problem is that I think there's only 3 members, and I think that we really feel that, particularly in the new 2017 budget, that basically the special events have been gutted, or very close to. We really are not allowed to do anything new that would have included a mother-son activity to go along with the father-daughter activity. And basically, we're being told that there's nothing new that we can do. And everything, somebody came to us recently, just at the last meeting, to put in, to do a little kids craft fair, which used to be done, and it would be adjacent to one of the other programs. And even that met with some resistance from our staff person, because it meant everything gets devolved into how many extra hours of work have to be charged off for it, and it seems that our budget has been cut dramatically. Needless to say, the largest example of this is the loss of the second annual porch sale. And whether you like it or not, it is a community function. Also, I think we've eliminated the home expo this year. I think is now out, and I think that we need to look at more than just the budget. And some of these aren't terribly expensive items, but they are the community spirit. And it seemed to me last year when I came to the candidate speaking, and everybody said, what do you like best about Celebration? Everybody said, special events. So I don't quite understand why this has happened, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody on the board is aware of it. And we'd like to continue as a committee, but at the moment, we're sort of very limited what we can do. So, thank you.
Thank you. And just to clarify, the father, or the mother-son activity is going on. So, thank you.
Can I ask, can we go through at our next board meeting the special events budget? Because my recollection of the budget is actually that we have quite a bit more money in there. I know we spent quite a bit of money on Founder's Day this year, and that I know one question I had during the budget meeting was that our budget was still going up quite a bit, and not even having I think we spent, what did we say, $60,000 or $80,000 on Founder's Day. So my recollection is that our budget has actually increased quite a bit So I would like to know if kind of get a breakdown and see what happened there, because that's not my understanding, is that our budget went down on a special event. Matter of fact, my understanding is that it actually went up quite a bit. Okay, can we meet at that? Can we talk
Absolutely.
about that?
And
Absolutely.
as a clarification, porch and yard sale was not canceled due to budget. It's a revenue neutral item. And I'm not necessarily for it being canceled, and I'd like to have that brought up at the next meeting, because it could be put back on. It's not too late.
We can discuss it. We can discuss it, yeah, go
The
ahead.
problem is that it's being said that the special events committee canceled it, and we didn't have anything to do with it. We were just told that it was gone.
Okay. I think we can discuss it again during our strategic plan, when we review our strategic plan and where we want to go forward to. Any other owner comments? Excellent. Motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, discuss CCMC management contract with Swanson.
Hi.
Hello?
At the last meeting, when I was here, I made a recommendation to the board that they may want to consider coming back to CCMC and seeing that for the remainder of the 2 years, if we would consider renegotiating our contract as it stands, to go back to the way the contract was pretty much structured prior to the last renewal. And my understanding is that the board met and wanted me to come tonight to talk about what that percent would be. So what we did was we went back and pulled all the information from when we originally renegotiated coming into this last contract. And at this point, the percentage of it would be, where right now it's a flat rate bill rate. Let me just clarify what the flat rate bill rate also includes, because with that, there's no changes to that bill rate throughout the year. In other words, if insurance goes up or workman's comp or some of the charges that our employee costs go up or down, on our old method, the bill rate could possibly change based on that, because it's based on payroll plus. So in going back and looking at the old contract, at this point, we would be at 12%. So we are certainly willing to go back and do it that way. So it's a 12% of the gross. And see if that is something that, that you're interested in having us, negotiate and do up paperwork for you guys to review. If you want to try to negotiate less, we would certainly be willing to do that, because we've done that every time you've renegotiated a contract with us, to go into the future if you wanted it to go down lower than that.
Just to clarify, the 12% is of the gross of all expenses, payroll, et cetera.
Is that the formula ends up being the 12% that you talked about, the formula?
Right.
No, Debbie, I think you're misunderstanding. If you're asking, but I think you're asking,
Yeah.
that's not in the current flat bill rate. The 12% was the old way they did the contract,
Right.
where you take all the expenses, what they pay for FICA, FUTA, all of those things together,
Right.
and then they add 12% onto that for their profit, administration, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, let me ask, so what I've typically heard is that a contract would have, here's what we pay the person. Say we pay the person $10 an hour, and then on top of that is X percent. And that X percent includes benefits, everything, so it's your company's job is to manage those benefits and try and control those. But that number is the one number that includes benefits plus some profit. So a typical contract would be, we're paying somebody $10 an hour, and then on top of that is 30%, and so that it's 30%, that includes benefits, that includes, we manage it. We may make a couple percentage of profit on that, we may lose, but, so going in, it's, if we pay somebody $10 an hour, say it's $20,000 a year, what we're going to charge you is $26,000 a year. But my understanding, our current one is is that it's a salary. So say we pay somebody $20,000 a year. So there's a percentage on top of that that includes benefits and all that stuff. And then on top of that is another 12%. But typically, from my understanding, is that most contracts, it's kind of spelled out is that, say the total number is 30%. Your number is 30%. So it's, and, your benefits cost may be 20, 25, whatever. Doesn't really matter to us, but we know the number is 30. So is that, I guess for me, that is what I understand as a typical contract, and it would be simpler, it would be easier for us to, to compare to see whether it's a competitive rate for us. It's just, here's what, say we pay somebody $20,000. On top of that, we're going to charge you whatever, 30%, 32, 40, whatever. That is the rate. I guess what I'm asking is that something you're not willing to do, is to tell us what that benefit rate is? You're just saying it's just kind of whatever our benefits are. So I guess what I'm saying is that, say if I look at our lifeguard, a lifeguard would typically, they wouldn't be getting health insurance, whatever. So say you're paying that guy that person $10 an hour, their benefits would probably just be 10%. So a lifeguard would be, so you actually look at each individual person and their benefits and say, we get charged by every individual person what their actual benefits is, plus 12%, or do you just, what do you do, aggregate everybody's benefits and say this is all our benefits, and then we're adding 12% on top of that? You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to understand. What I see in contracts, heard in contract, is different than what we have. Something that what I'm talking about is much clearer, much simpler. We understand this is, and I get it. Okay, 30%, 30%. And I understand that benefits typically cost, 20 to 25%. And I understand you want to have some profit in there, because health may go up and this, and that is where you get some profit. But that would be a lot simpler. That would be a lot easier for me to understand, the community to understand, is if we just had a one set percentage.
So, go ahead, I'm sorry. Answer. Respond to him first.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm not the one that sits down and does the actual payroll, but I will tell you that based on the rate that the new contract was based on, it was based on actual bill rate that was established by the company. And how they did that, and we've been through that, and you're not comfortable with that because there's no way for you to verify it. Prior to that, so from 1996 through the last renewal, what you had was basically employee salaries. So yes, there's some that are full-time and some that are part-time. And then based on that, there is a percentage added that started in 1996, I believe it was 5%. And at the last renewal, I think it was sitting at 10% after, well, we're sitting at 20 years. So at the 20-year mark, it is now 12%. But you are correct, when you add on insurance and, and that type of thing, yeah, that does add to the percentage of markup on an employee. But what you were asking us to do, because you were concerned about what was CCMC charging above and beyond the benefit rates. Now, we look at benefits on an annual basis to get the very best benefits that we can, for employees. And over the years, it used to be that 100% of my insurance was paid, and now I actually pay a little because they'd rather us have good insurance than, and we take it and we contribute a little. I don't pay much, but I do pay toward my insurance now, but most of it's paid for, to keep the cost, rising, from rising for everyone. But basically, what we would do with our quote, although I was also asked to stress, because out of that 12%, we also pay for the certifications for our managers, their education for them to, go to conference and all that kind of stuff out of that 12. But that comes out of that 12%.
So I guess my one question, so you would not be willing to, just over the next 2 years, come back to us and say, we want to go to a more simpler plan where it's our actual labor cost plus 8%. That includes benefits plus profit. So right now, I see we're getting two different numbers. We're getting we're adding on to our labor a benefits percentage and then a profit percentage, right? That's what we're getting from y'all now.
It's not a benefit percentage, it's based on whatever those benefits are.
Whatever
at
the
the
benefit, yeah,
time.
so
Right.
benefits plus profit,
Which
yeah.
I think is pretty standard. The one time that when we all went through bid processes, I know that was looked at very thoroughly by the board at the time. And they compared, because they wanted to ask each company, what is your percentage of markup? Not benefits, but the company markup. And you had things ranging from, at that time, from 8 to 18%, depending on which company you were talking to.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm still unclear, so I'm still unclear as to, does the company, do you use a certain percentage and say, based on our experience as a company, that benefit number is X percent, let's say it's 20%. So it's so that is the number, that's the number we're using is 20% because as we aggregate as a company, that is what it cost our company to do all the benefits for, say, Celebration. Is it all for Celebration? Is it by individual employee? Because some employees, the benefits will be 10%. Some employees, the benefits may be 30%. So I guess I'm trying to understand where that, I understand the 12% number. That's the profit. That's above what our cost is. So I'm trying to understand, how do you get to your cost of benefits number? How does a company come to their cost of benefits number? Do they look at every individual and say, okay, I've got a lifeguard and all they're getting is FICA, they're not getting health care, so that's 9%. And then we do 12% on top of that?
Pretty
Is that how you
much.
do it?
Pretty
That's how you do it.
much.
So you look at every individual.
And if I'm incorrect, I will get back to you. But yes, that is my understanding.
Okay, that's what I want to do. I was trying to clear up how it works.
And that's also, just so you know, in the past, what the board used to do when you went into audit season, you would have the auditor go back and verify on your behalf. They go in and ask, well, they don't look at every single payroll, all 26 payrolls for the year, but they go in and spot check and verify, in fact, that this was the only percentage charged to the association.
Okay.
That was how it was
Yeah.
handled.
Well, Pat, I've got a question.
Leonard's
Go
had
ahead,
his
Leonard.
thumb up.
Okay, go ahead, Jack.
Okay.
All right, let's boil it down to just simple numbers, okay? We have a cost plus percentage thing, or we have the option of the flat rate bill rate. Which one saves us money?
It's pennies. Because although
Okay, and
our
that's
company has a billable rate that we charge when we develop a billable for a client, we also base the billable on a client.
All right.
So really, there's going to be very, very little change. to
Now,
it.
that's based at a 12% rate.
That's based on the 12%.
And if we sign for a longer time period, you may go down to a lower rate, is
You
that
can
correct?
certainly go down and negotiate, yes.
Okay. What's the advantage of the flat rate bill rate over the percentage plus?
For you,
Yeah,
the advantage is that you can sleep at night.
okay.
I mean, seriously, you have not really paid any more than you have over the years, but a perception, I think, is very much a reality to people. And when you can't have someone verify and look at a number and make you feel comfortable with it, then you don't like it. And therefore, you feel as though someone is trying to pull one over on you, which is one of the reasons why we sat down and I came back to you and said, if this is frustrating you, then ask to go back to the way you did it before. I mean, it was your decision to change it, which was, it was a daytime meeting. Nobody was drinking. You went, down, the benefits and, the pluses and the minuses. And however you guys, felt and what made you comfortable at the time. At the time, you voted to change it. I can tell you over the last 12 months, I have wished over and over again, if I could go back to that meeting, I'd say, don't do it. Whatever you do, don't do it. Because in my opinion, if it's something that doesn't make you comfortable, then all it does is it'll eat at you, and therefore you're going to come back and say, this is not making me happy. So I recommend that you go back to the old way. And that way you can have it audited or however you want it looked at to ensure that someone is not overcharging you. it bothers me that you think that you would think that we would not be upfront with you, but, you know, in this day and age, I read the newspapers.
Can it sounds like to me you're offering two options, or these are two options that I would like for the board to be able to consider, is that one option would be to just extend the next 2 years at the 12%, or even stay with our current contract at 12%, or to possibly go back and say, let's go ahead and look at the contract now and possibly renegotiate early, and if we're willing to extend the contract, maybe do a new 5-year contract, and, if there is another formula that we are, that makes us more comfortable, that you would consider that. Is that what I heard you say? I thought I heard you say that.
We would certainly be happy to sit down and renegotiate, in the future.
'Cause for me, I would say
That's not
this-
the purpose of me coming here tonight, was to twist anybody's arm.
No, I understand.
I want to be very
Because
upfront.
you mentioned being comfortable, and my comfort would be, I would feel much more comfortable just having rather than have 2 rates, and not really understanding, we don't even know what that first rate is. So all we know is that there's labor plus something, plus 12%. I would rather just be clear, it's labor plus X percent. To me, that would be, and the second thing, and one reason why I have sort of pushed this issue is that, as I've said before, is that I would much prefer to have our labor, to me, to put our cost as an interest, our interest and your interest in the same way is for us. In this way, I think most of the profit that is made is based on labor, and so that I don't want you to make less money the more efficient you are. And the way it is set up now, if you are more efficient, you make less money. I want us to be in the same where I know that I would rather you make more money the more efficient you are. So that's been my frustration with the system and the method that we have now, and that's why I would feel more comfortable, as you said. I would like to see some kind of change, and I'm happy. It's not. I'm not unhappy with CCMC. I'm not out here sitting there. I've heard people sit there and say you're here because you want to get rid of CCMC. That is not my comfort. It's just my comfort level with the contract and how it's stated. And I would like to get just a different contract because, I'm not unhappy with CCMC. I will say that flatly. I want to continue to work with y'all. This is me personally. I would like to have. I would be more comfortable with a different contract. So that's me just saying my piece. So that's where I'm at.
Did she answer your question, Jack, before we move on?
For the present, but I'm looking into the future, 5 years in the future. How will we compare with the flat rate bill rate versus the 10%?
I will tell you that because of the fact that you've been with CCMC for 20 years, I can assure you that your flat rate bill rate is lower than it is probably for a brand-new client coming in off the street today.
Yeah.
And because it was something that, that we were obviously doing budgets every year and very conscious of that, and to suddenly jump your bill rates, to me, it would, I think that if you go back and you look across the board, that other than looking at an average cost of increase for employees, there's been very little blip in what you've been paying over the years. But the fact that because of the way it was structured, you can't necessarily audit it or feel comfortable with it is why I say I would go back to the old way. That would certainly be my right, because I think that even if, let's say that over the next month, we all decide, well, we're just going to leave it that way, then I believe that the issue would raise its head again. And I don't think we've, I've been working with this community since 1999, and I have never sat in a board meeting and had this discussion, other than in contract renewal. So that tells me that the system, the way it has changed to, is not as, I think the key word that we use around here is not as transparent as what you've done in the past, and I think that it's important that you have that, and that you're comfortable with it, and that the auditor can look at it. And so if someone says, is everything being done and generally accepted accounting principles, et cetera, and down the road, that you all say yes. And that's, to me, is what is most important for this community.
Leonard, you had your
If anyone has something, go ahead, because
Somebody
I've
else?
got a few, otherwise I can start.
Did somebody else have, did anybody else have any comments, questions? Debbie?
Well, I think when we met, I think the difficult part was you were sharing the information we needed to do in closed session because it had salaries in it. But then there was the formula, and there was just no way to clarify what that was. So we had no idea if we were looking at 12% or 20% or 30%. So it was I think a lot of ambiguity there. And I think the other thing is that a few people had expressed we do want some type of incentive, if there's a way to do that. Not
There's always an
anything-
incentive at that time. I think that's why contracts have expiration dates.
Yeah, yeah.
That keeps you from keeping that number going up.
Right,
And-
right.
And traditionally, if you go back and look, if you pulled out those stacks, you would see that each
They were
time
good.
it always goes back and then it comes back up. it
Right,
just
and the other
keeps
thing
it
too is to make sure we looked at it as we have a size in the community that increased, that we aren't undercutting, because it has grown, and we need to look at that as well. We don't want to just be saying you have to keep the same price and we have an extra 2,000 people. So I think there was just a lot of areas that were needed to look at.
Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you.
I think, one of the things that we'd see look at, we would cut our rate to ensure that the employees got their rate. I mean, you see, on a bill rate, when it's a flat bill rate, suppose the board said to me one year, Pat, we don't want that line item to go up. Well, I'm not going to go back to staff and say,
You can't have a raise.
you can't have a raise. So it's going to come out of my pocket or the company's pocket. And we feel very strongly about that. We also feel very strongly about education and certifications and making sure that they have the tools that they need
Right.
to advance our growth.
Leonard?
Where to start here?
Top and work your way down, how's that?
Basically, between CROA and CJC, we pay a little bit over $2 million salary-wise. It's $1.98 million. And that doesn't include the Artisan Park, couple employees that work down there. So it's a little bit over $2 million. We started back, as I look at the management agreements here, back in 2009, which is 8 years ago. And our monthly management fee payable that you actually get from the CJC, but we pay 3/4 of it, started at $6,600 per month. And the contract has it at $7,800 per month this year and $8,000 a month next year. Not a large, it's 2 to 3% per year uptick on those. But we didn't have zero inflation through many of those years, if you look at the CPI, et cetera, et cetera. The other part of that, calendar year-wise, was in 2009, you paid your salaries and paid out all the monies and figured it out, and then you took 5% above that. In 2010, it went to 7, 2011, it went to 8, 2012, it went to 9, 2013, it went to 10. Again, through years of high unemployment, I mean, not that I'm saying you should cut your employees' wages or anything, but your additions to your markup to our billable rates went through 2013 on this contract. And then I guess 2014, you went to a straight billable rate that you did away with this cost plus. What I asked to see tonight was, show me last year, show me 2016, your total salaries, show me the whole thing, and show me the dollar amount that it would be based on whatever percent billable we have. And then let's talk about whether that percent add-on is a livable add-on for the people on the board. You mentioned you would take anything back that we send you back with, but until we know where we are, we can't really send you anywhere. If you go through and you show us what you did last year, which is what you used to show us every year anyway, this is the amount we paid out, this is our FICA, this is our FUTA, this is our workman's costs, these are our everything that fell under the old contract, if you show that all to us, then we could look at that and look and see, gosh, with this billable rate we're paying right now, we're paying 30% on top of that. You said it's about 12. We don't know. So verification is one thing. Transparency is something I probably say way too much. And now and then I hear some of my friends shout transparency from the audience. Go ahead, shout one day. But you have, again, between the $7,800 monthly fee, which I almost have to look at as pure profit, because you're putting in the rest of the items, including training and such. You mentioned all those things as some other side items that come out of that extra percentage. I would like to see something based on our property that shows all of those numbers out.
I mean, how much was paid in FICA and FUTA and...
That's what you used to do when you had it on a regular.
No, that's not what we did. What you did was you had the auditor come in and audit the payroll and come back to the board and say, this is their percent of profit.
Okay, the old contracts, when you read them very carefully, said we actually had a right as a board to see all that. So whether your auditors did it or not, you can still bring it to the board. And it's no different than, I have the billables for every one of the employees right here. I don't share them out through anyone, but you brought them to one of our meetings, and it was a tool we used to help build the budget, just because they are the current billable hours. Then it's not a large amount again. It's $46,000 or so a year. It's the transfer fee for new owners when they, I guess you set up their account back in Arizona. And do you guys know what it's called?
It's a transfer fee.
Okay, administrative transfer fee.
Right.
So that's evidently not in the CJC, the monthly amounts, which is $7,800 per month this year. It's not in there.
No, it's in your exhibits.
No, I guess what I'm saying is the services provided for changing owners in and out isn't included in there.
No, it's an additional fee through your exhibits. All management companies charge it.
Yeah. And from talking to management companies, they say the cost of it is almost nothing to do. So it's additional profit. I mean, and I'm not, you guys are in business to make a profit. Don't.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay. So I'm of the opinion I would like to see the 2016, and that's sort of what I shared with Steve. Show me the 2016 numbers. Show me the add-on percent. Is that pretty much what I told you?
Yeah.
And let's see where we are. I guess I'm finished right now.
I think that's what I said. So you're going to look at the payroll numbers without benefits for 2016, and then look at all the benefits for 2016, and then the 12? Is that what
No,
you're
I'd like to see exactly for 2016 what it would have cost us had we bid on, and that's showing us all the items that come out of that under the old contract, what it would cost us under that, and then we take the percentage difference to see what that percent really is, number one.
What do you mean what it would have cost?
Pat said a few minutes ago that she thought it was about a 12% difference.
Right.
And she said there, between the billable hour rate, which is what we're paying right now,
Right.
and the old rate, which was the old contract rate, she said there's just pennies difference between the two of them.
Okay.
So what I would like to see is take exactly what we did last year, that we were charged the billable hours rate from, back to the 2016 contract, run it forward through the year, show us those numbers, and then we can see the percentage difference that we have. And then if we want to negotiate any other percentages that way, we're at a point we can start with. Right now, we say, right now, it's a pig in the poke, so to speak. I mean, and again, I always go to hyperbole. If it's 50%, we say, well, we'd like the 2% reduction. We didn't get a very good reduction.
So just to.
If it's a very small amount and we get, and we reduce, then we have gotten it better.
Just to clarify, because I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. What you would like is to see what we actually paid versus if we were to put this contract into place, what it would have been, and compare the two.
Well, we already know what we actually paid. We have all the billable rates here.
But what I'm saying is you want to actually have the numbers run to where if we would have gone with the 12% and then compare the two, is that what you're asking for?
Oh, you can do it on a percentage, or you can just do the basic numbers out with no percent added on. And then you take the difference between the two and you see the percent.
Susan, are you following what
Well,
what
I
he's
think
asking
all
for?
he's asking
Can you
for is
translate
to
for
run
me?
it. I think all you're asking
what
for
you
is
want
to
to
run
do.
it
What I
both
just
ways and see what the difference is. That's all.
That's-
Bottom line, that's
The
exactly
old
what it's
contract
for.
way with 12% and the new flat billable rate.
Okay.
All right, let me make sure I understand. The one that has to take the message back. Basically, you would like to look back at 2016 and say, had we done 2016 in the way we're asking to do 2017,
Correct.
what would it look like? What would the total would have been?
Yeah, it's not using the billable, using the old contract
Right.
method.
Okay.
Okay.
And did you have any comments or questions?
12% or at where the old contract
No,
ended?
no, he
It's
wants.
not rocket
Well, he
science.
didn't even say 12%.
It's not rocket science. It really
He
is.
said how much?
Okay.
It
Yeah, it's
really
way
is-
too complicated. It's not rocket science. We want it, what he's asking for is he's asking for the old contract, the new contract, and the comparison. That's it, right?
That's it.
Subject's closed.
Well,
So,
I would like to project it out 5 years out.
That's
I mean,
fine.
it seems to me they're offering, we've got three, I see three options that we can consider. Okay, one is just to continue with the contract that we have now, right? The second, which is Pat has offered, is to go back to 12%, which is in line with the way the contract was before, the most recent one. And the third one, and in the meantime, we've talked about getting out in front of a new contract, which is 2 years off. So we've talked about that process. But I think the third part is, and maybe throw this out, is that third thing that we would ask from them is if they would, in order to extend the contract, say do some kind of new contract, and they would come back to us with what, I think they have a sense for what, I don't know, maybe they don't have a sense for what we're looking for. I know certainly, I mean, I can make clear what I'm like, well, if they would be willing to come back with a contract that basically is just labor plus X percent, here's the percent. So there's, we're not going to get into the weeds about what is in, because right now in terms of transparency, I don't know what's in that benefit number, nobody does. It's a number, I don't know what it is, but
It's a
rather than.
moving target, too.
It's whatever, but and I think this is the way most companies do it, is that it's a number, and guess what? Some years, I have to manage that, just like I worked at Pepsi, we got to manage benefits. Sometimes insurance goes crazy and it hurts us, but something where you would come back to us and say, in order to, if you want to extend the contract for another 5 years, we would offer you this, labor plus X percentage. That's what, that's what I would like to, and then for the board to consider those options.
That would be a much higher percentage, though, because you're not taking into account the benefits.
Right. So you'd have to,
Don't worry about
you would
the
lump those two numbers together. So basically it would be like, it could be 25%, 30%, whatever it is. It would be benefits plus, you wouldn't be two different numbers. It would just be, here's what we pay,
Right.
and here's what you're paying on top of that. That includes our benefits, and guess what? It includes a little bit of, it includes some profit for us. But, that way, it's your job to manage benefits. I mean, you're,
Exactly.
right now, it sounds like, if benefits goes up, we pay for it. I think most contracts, the management company has to manage that part of it. And in a good year, they'll make some money, they'll make more money than others, but it's just one number, so that is completely transparent. that is simple, and I don't know, that's what, is that okay? I mean, I would like for us to consider those options.
I think I understand what you want.
Does
So.
that make sense to the rest of them?
Yeah, so I guess whenever we're doing our workshops, our goal is to set some type of initiative or some direction for Steve and CCMC as to what we want from them. So my understanding is you want them to do the comparison, and then you want them,
Yeah, I'm not certain what Leonard, I'm just asking for 4 options. Is that, well, I think we know what the 3 of the
but
options are.
who, they wouldn't discuss the options, we would as a board, so that I'm asking what.
Well, we're still holding out, there's one option they haven't given us yet, which is the extension, because they've offered us to continue for 2 more years at the 12% rate.
Right.
They've offered us just to stay with the contract we're at now.
Right.
I think extension's
Well, I think
And
the
then
extension,
the-
she said that would be something, but it would be something that would need to be board initiated, not CCMC initiated.
Well, no, well, I think they'd make the offer. They would sit there and say, well, they've got to, I would ask them to make the initial offer and say, this is,
Pat's already said that she would
extension.
entertain any requests of the
oh,
board.
okay, so you want the board to,
So, well, I think that's what
Yeah, it was
CCMC
very
is
important
asking
to us
for.
that,
well,
How
I
about
guess
10?
what I'm
offers-
saying from the board is that I don't want to tell them what, I don't know. I just, I have a sense for what is competitive, but, that would be like me saying, they're offering services to us, so, and they're under a contract right now, so to me, it would be, they're the seller. I mean, it's like they would come to us and say, this is what, we would want. Otherwise, it would be us saying, we only want to offer you this much, right?
But I
would
think
rather them
Paul,
come
on
to
the other
us-
side, you're offering an extended contract in the future
Yeah.
prior to the expiration. Give them something that you'd be willing to work with too. Shoot for the moon. Okay?
0. No, I think it's fair. I think they need to go back and say what they can, and then we could sit there and say,
Well,
we
that's part
can
of the
negotiate from there, yeah.
Well,
But I don't want to, I don't even know.
9% for 5
Do you want to look at
years.
10%, 9%? What do you?
No, well, see, you're looking at the wrong numbers again. It's not, it's going to be,
No, you're not.
it's going to be between 20 and 40, so the number's going to be in there, so.
If you're-
You're still looking at the cost plus,
If
and
you
the
just-
fixed flat rate bill rate thing. Let's look at the cost plus percentage contract.
Yes,
That's what he's talking about.
that's what I'm talking about.
That's still gonna be a 10% contract or less.
No, cost, the percent includes benefits plus profit. So that's going to be, that's going to be higher.
He's talking, right now, it's including base. So here's, let's take this in baby steps. Can I get everybody's attention again real quick? Here, I think we need to take this in baby steps because we've got everybody splattered everywhere. So let's start with, we've given CCMC direction to get the information for the board regarding those, and you're clear on that? Okay. I guess to take it back a little further, at our previous board meeting, we voted to set up a committee. So if we're going to set up a committee, is this something that we want to send to the committee, or is this something that we want to do on our own? I guess we need to determine now, at what point in time, what responsibility are we wanting to take it as a board?
I don't think we need a committee.
I agree.
Okay?
For this, if we decide that none of this works and we're just going to extend the thing for a couple of years, then I think then the committee goes in. But for this, I think it's just the board should.
I think with the information that they'll provide, the board is intelligent enough to make our own decision on that.
Is that generally the consensus? We can't vote on it because it's not an official
No,
posting, but is that
actually,
something?
I'm not sure if it's my consensus because I differentiate some of what I've heard here, and I don't know where to go to look for a benchmark for a company that manages, that receives about $2 million in salaries, in employee costs from an association. As I recall, we have 28 full-time employees and 19 part-time employees. And I don't know if there's a benchmark out there for.
There's benchmarks, I can get them to you if you want.
I don't know if there's benchmarks out there
there are.
There's
for
benchmarks.
this level of community
Yes.
Yes, there is.
that has that number of employees. If there
Yes,
are,
there is.
I would love, can you guys send that to me?
Isleworth, I can tell you, I can just name them off here for you. my
But can
friend.
you send me the info on their systems and what they have?
Their financials are public record.
So,
Yeah, I
so,
think that information's out there, so.
so, Tim and Paul, you both believe that you have the data, access to the data to forward on to the rest of the board with regards to those types of benchmarks?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think 2 or 3 of them.
Okay. So let's continue on that end while you guys are getting that data too. And then we can just, once we, I don't think we want to do anything until we at least have the data. There doesn't seem to be a consensus one way or the other. We don't have Herrick here either to give his general thoughts. I know Tim and Paul both said that they're not interested in pursuing a committee as of yet. What is your thought, Debbie, just so I can kind of just get a general poll?
I think if the board looked at the data, we could discuss from there, but I don't know if it would help historically, but the CCMC went through this before, and there were bids put out. And my memory serves that you guys were much lower.
Back in,
2000 and,
I think it was '07, a committee had recommended a possible another management company.
Right.
And at the time, actually, your husband was treasurer. And he went back and did a cost analysis because management fees were about the same. Resale costs were all about the same. They were similar. But he looked directly at payroll costs at the time. And the other company over the same term of contract was $1.5 million more than CCMC was, because at that time they were, their markup at the time, I believe, was about 17%. And I think ours was at that time about 7 or 8% or something like that, so.
there were like three companies, right?
Yeah, I don't know, I
I mean,
only
if you
know the
guys-
recommendation that came back was this
Well,
one
it's-
particular company. So, and so the CROA board at the time went through and did a cost analysis on those proposals. And then they looked at what CCMC had offered and did a cost analysis on that.
Is that helpful for you guys to see any history? I mean, I don't know
No.
if you could get,
I wouldn't have
No, I
any
just
of that
want to see what's
information.
out there
okay,
now.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's more important to look forward where
Yeah.
the
that's
market
better.
is now rather than looking
Yeah, and I
historically, so.
think most companies, if you, I mean, I have people that, treasurers of boards for communities that call me and just say, can you give me information, what is the going rate for, salaries, managers? Recently, one community called and, just, boards just wanted to chat and just get information on how to do that. And most communities are willing to give you that information. And there is, through the Community Associations Institute, there is a what we call large-scale manager survey that's done on an annual basis to figure out what salaries and things like that are. And sometimes we don't want the employees to see them, or maybe you wouldn't either. Depending on what part of Florida you're in, because once again, when you look at salaries and things like that, it's what somebody makes in Tallahassee versus what they make in Miami versus what they make in Orlando are 3 different things.
Huge difference.
So it really, there's a lot of cost considerations there.
For the essence of time, well, let's go ahead and wait to hear back from them. On Tim and Paul, why don't you guys do some research and get some information out to the rest of the board? And then we can make some decisions based upon that. Is that fair?
Yes, something else that Susan and I talked about and at one time was the board could actually join CAI. And I don't know what the dollar amount is per year,
Less than $400.
but there's a lot of information out there on the association Are you a member, Tim?
Yeah.
So all I got to do is come over to your house then instead.
There you go.
Save the 400. Got it.
We have some resources, so.
And I'll invite you to any meetings that we have. They're the first Thursday of every month, and anyone's welcome.
And I've attended a couple of them. They
Yeah.
actually have great information, so thank you for the invites for that. And I know, Bill, you've attended a couple of them too.
I don't know if you care to open up. I see we have quite a few people that might have been interested in the contract and talking or making a comment. I don't know if you want to open it to any comments.
Board consensus, you good with that? Sure. Okay, any
Yeah,
any
we're
comments?
limited on time now.
Yeah, exactly. So if anybody has any brief comments, go ahead. Mike, I'm going to ask you to come up to the microphone, sorry. I know.
Hi, Mike Jackson, 413 Sycamore. A couple things very quickly. It concerns me that you're looking at going back to a percentage because, Paul, you spoke very eloquently about alignment. If you go to a percentage, that puts you out of alignment again and continues that process. I'm just not sure that's a good place to be because the more you get charged, the more the billing is. And I would tell you that what you're looking at here is payroll and the way a payroll is processed. And there's independent sources to set a standard, such as ADP and other payroll processing services. And you should evaluate that from an outsourcing standpoint. If the company can't do it cheap enough, how can you go outsourcing and how much is that? And I've looked at that a little bit and I can tell you there's some pretty competitive rates out there. Charging a percentage for a payroll has nothing to do with the cost of doing a payroll. The numbers on the check don't drive the cost. So if a check has $100 on it or has $500, you're going to pay a different price for those two checks. And there is no driver in cost. It absolutely is illogical from a standpoint of doing a contract.
Their payroll is done through ADP.
Okay. So ADP is a great company, but you need to look at what the cost of ADP is and what is the base cost before you add the percentage on and so on. So you outsource the payroll.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not your own employees. It's not CCMC employees.
No, they
in
are
a central
CCMC.
location.
We pay ADP to do the payroll.
So then from a transparency standpoint, I want to see what that cost is. And, you know, if you're paying 10% on it or whatever, but I would audit that. Anyway, I think percentage on a cost that doesn't have any basis in fact for where the cost comes from, just because that's a number printed on a check, I think that makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. Flat rate, I think, is a better position to be in. You need transparency there. Paul, I also think that, you know, going to a percentage basis on benefits, whether it's insurance or work comp or all those things, they're so volatile, I think, for both parties. Somebody's going to get hosed in the process. I don't think you can do that. You probably should find discrete numbers, actual cost for those, and then have a percentage on it or a flat rate. My recommendation or my point is, obviously, it's a flat rate versus a percentage. So I think you need to have as many discrete items in the process as you can that's an actual transparent cost pass-through. Otherwise, you're both guessing at negotiating, and you don't get to a win-win. It's whoever leverages more to get a percentage or whatever it is, maybe extend the contract for 5 more years, you get a better percentage, but then something goes crazy with taxes, they go up, they go down, whatever it is, Social Security. You have no control. So that would be my comments, I think. But I would encourage you to look for, it's called cost accounting, right, Susan? Cost accounting and things that drive cost, and break it down to that first as a process, and then find independent measurements, benchmarks, like an ADP and other things, as opposed to just you trying to negotiate a number that feels good and Pat trying to get a number that she thinks is best for the organization. Somebody's going to lose. That's not a win-win negotiating. That's not, you know, good faith negotiation. That's it.
Thank you for your
You bet.
insight. Any other public comment? Go ahead, Bill.
Bill Palea, 1411 Celebration Avenue. I think there's one thing that hasn't been said that needs to be said, but I don't want to be misconstrued. I think what you're doing here needs to be done. That is, to use the common vernacular lately, to get the best deal possible. what you have not mentioned at all is quality of service. And that's not a number. So when you start stacking numbers up, where does that come into play and how do you measure it? I don't have easy answers for you. You probably, it's a difficult thing to wrap your arms around. But that's very important. I remember I used to go somewhere and he had a sign in his store. There isn't anything I have in this store that somebody can't make or sell cheaper. So sometimes you can get so caught up in dollar amounts. I'm sure you can get somebody cheaper. What the community is going to look like 3 or 4 years down the road, how do you measure that? Again, that's a tough thing to do. But please put that somewhere in your decision-making process.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And just so you know, when we talked about this before, that was a concern of everybody, I think, on there, was that was a, again,
Big concern of mine.
not quantitatively how to now look at it, but we had to look at
I think
the quality of employees. We
The
all
one
had
thing that was pointed out in our meetings too was that this is not being done because of a concern of CCMC quality. This is being done as part of due diligence and financial responsibility. So not because the employees and Steve, everybody has been terrific to work with. So thank you very much. Your service has actually been stellar. On that note, are we good with moving forward to discussing our, reviewing the accomplishments in the strategic plan and seeing what directions we want to go forward? Steve, you want to start that conversation, or do you want me to?
Well, I think we had kind of discussed just a little bit about going through the focus areas, the 5 goal focus areas, 6 goal focus areas, and then each leader of those focus areas. Just talking a little bit about some of the accomplishments this year, and then is there anything that you feel we need to really focus on over the last couple of months to make sure that we can wrap up this strategic plan? And then I think the second part of that was, are there any recommendations or things that we've started talking about recently that you would strongly recommend the new board coming in 2017 to consider as they go through their strategic planning process in April? So if you want to just start with the goal area number 1, and Vanessa and Jack as the leaders of that. I know that we had highlighted partnerships with Foundation, working with the Celebration Development District to make sure they're liaisons, but you might want to elaborate a little bit more on some of those.
I actually just pulled up exactly what it is posted on the website, and it just says goal number 1, build mutually beneficial strategic partnerships with the county, civic community, schools, and districts. Specifically, develop a strategy to encourage Osceola County to make street repairs priority, especially among most visible parts of the community, which we obviously have new roads, freshly paved, which is nice to see. And we're working, actually, we just had a meeting with Peggy Chaudhry, the new District 1 commissioner, and she had pulled together and convened a group from that did parking and roads, and they came back out here, what day was it they came back out? We're going to be scheduling a meeting for them to come out and actually do a walkthrough, reevaluate some of the striping and things like that. So the meeting with Peggy was very productive.
So the direction was for it to be myself on behalf of CROA, a liaison from the Development District, which is Floyd. They have the Development District has a resolution to have Floyd McCollum be the representative. And then from the county, along with Jeffrey Mallon, that's the original town architect. And there's also a schedule to begin paving Celebration Boulevard in North Village by the first quarter of this year.
Continue work with the Foundation, Thriving in Place, CCDD, and other groups to build an even more cohesive community. We've been working with the Celebration Foundation, CDD, and then CROA have been working actually with regards to the Stetson building, which is something that we're working on trying to keep the Stetson building as a main focus of our town. It's going up for sale, and we're working on trying to make sure it stays with something that is community oriented. and we're working together as we have a nice committee together to try and keep that there. So that's one thing. And then obviously Thriving in Place is still using our Jones Room, and has been very successful in doing that. And then we have now on the CDD agenda, we will actually be highlighted, much like TCC has a section to update the community. Now CROA, our CROA representatives will be able to also update CDD on what's going on within the community. And then develop a schedule for CROA board members and executive director to interact with Osceola County. So we've been working on trying, as we said, been attending the CDD meetings, as well as attending some of the county meetings. Jeff, did you have anything to add on that?
No, that's good.
Okay.
I want to say something. I think that's an area that has had huge progress, and I thank Vanessa, Jack, and Steve. I mean, we were just in a meeting, the right representatives were in there representing all the different constituents. We had a gentleman from the school board was there. It was very clear everybody who was there had been appointed and was clearly representing the viewpoint of the other one. I think that's been a huge problem. I mean, as recently as, with this road change one way, there was not, that was a classic issue of, wait a minute, the county hearing from somebody thinking, oh, that they represented the community, and they didn't. So it's an area that we really needed to work on, and I think we've gone so far in that. I think we still have a little bit of work to do with the CDD, but I think that's getting there. So I think that's been huge, so thank y'all for that. I think y'all have done a great job on that.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to goal number 2. And for those that came in for I just want to, if there's anybody that just came in for the appeals meeting, we are we're running a little bit behind, so just be patient with us. It starts at 6:30, so we'll try to make sure we start as close to 6:30 as possible. Thank you. Goal number 2, improve communication tools and methods to better educate and involve members of the community. Eric is the lead on that, and then I'm behind him on that. Obviously, he's not here, so I'll update really quick. Specific goals: increase communication between board and department and committees.
Sorry about that.
Communication marketing plan with Nicole Engelman, which we had done that. And then communication and education of the covenants process to the residents. We've been trying to improve that through Friday Flash. I know that JR's been putting that out. I think specifically, though, with the update, I think one area that we need to work on more is with the update for the front porch. If we have more activity or more updates to the community on behalf of the board, I think that would be beneficial. I had briefly mentioned during our management report, if there's specific highlighted dates, specific highlighted decisions that are being made to do a better job under board and under CROA board, provide more information to the community on a more regular basis. I think that's something I know I'll improve upon, and whomever takes over as president in the next election I would encourage that to happen too. So I think that's a good way of improving that section. Goal number 3, develop and implement a recreation plan. Paul and Debbie, I'll read it specifically. Focus on developing youth sports, establish a recreation plan task force, and establish a plan for amenity contracting to promote fair and equitable treatment across all venues, ensure adequate revenue for CROA, and enhance the variety of services available for CROA members. Actions will include a thorough review of the existing amenity contracts to gather factual information and present to the CROA board for approval. And kudos to the committee, so please go ahead.
Well, I'll talk a little bit. First, just, I want to thank Dave. Dave has put in more hours than everybody combined.
Absolutely.
Actually, Steve has a recreation background, so that is such a big plus for the community to have that expertise. Adam Parrish has been leading it. But with like what Kathleen said, and we've had 2 or 3 other people come in just in the last month, and everything that's been said, that is what our committee is trying to address, because there is a lot of confusion, a lot of issues out there in terms of use of fields, trying to, we have a limited space, and what we want to do is have the highest quality as you said, both recreational and competitive offerings in our community. So we want this to be known as, it already is, that obviously is one of the guideposts of community is health, but it already is a great, healthy community. But we did see that there was a great need in the area of recreation, both for youth, adults, recreational, competitive. And we're just coming to the end of it. Again, Steve has put in a lot of hours putting this whole program together, but I think we're going to have a meeting, I think, in a week, where basically all the different constituents, all the people that want to use the fields or have interest in recreation in town can come in and see the plan, react to it, and give us their feedback. But I think you're going to like what you see, and I think it's going to clear up a lot of the confusion around that area. So I'm real excited about it. I think, I don't think we have reached really the potential of what this community can be in recreation. And I think this thing is really, I think we're set up, honestly, based on this report and everything, to be what we can be there. So that would be my.
Thank you. Goal number 4, further improve member services to enhance lifestyle offerings and quality of life benefits for all ages. Work with the Celebration Foundation for partnership with volunteerism and volunteer appreciation program. Finish the dog park, continue parks master plan development. Continue extreme customer focus. Create a more effective new owner and welcoming procedure. Jack and Tim.
I didn't see all those things before. The dog park. Yeah, we're missing all that here. Well, the dog park we're going to be dedicating in the next couple of weeks, so
Was
we're
it
almost there.
tentative date is February 11th, is that correct?
As long as all the punch list items.
Okay, so.
Okay, so it's looking real good out there. If you haven't been out there, take a look. It's out there behind the library. As far as the remaining parts of the recreation master plan, we're still proceeding forward as far as building 3 fields, and we're in the permit phase right now. Still planning it, and
part of our agreement with the foundation and Thriving in Place to utilize the Jones Room is to have access to their volunteer database if we need volunteers for events. The Thriving group and their volunteers were a huge help last year for helping do the election ballot counting, and PJ is planning on utilizing them again this year. So
Yeah, that program has really taken off. It's that Thriving in Place is just it's come to its own. It's really has done a great job.
I think to the beginning part too, I mean, it's making sure that we're enhancing lifestyle for all ages. So we need to make sure as we're going forward to, even with the recreation plan, that's a big focus.
Yeah, well, yeah, big time, yeah.
But we also need to make sure that we're accounting for all the growth in the community too, so.
I just want to make mention, Paul, you mentioned us talking with CDD. One of our most recent discussions with CDD was talking about getting them to help us partner with continuing with the walkways and paths through the civic corridor, and maybe that'll help us out in the next couple of months getting that completed.
And Vanessa, if I can just comment real quick on, because special events lifestyles are part of those lifestyle offerings and enhancements in the community. The process for building the calendar starts with staff working with the special events committee, having those discussions. That's then brought to the CROA board in the budget work session. So when we talked about the porch and yard sale this year, I'll be the first one to admit, in my 2.5 years, I've never received a compliment for porch and yard sale. I've only heard negative feedback from residents. So when it was brought to us that they were going to reduce it to once a year, in my mind, that made perfect sense. In hindsight, when we play Monday morning quarterback, the reaction in the community is not going that way. It is a event that's been taken away. We are not locked into not having it. If the consensus of the board is for us to look at a porch and yard sale for March and ease the community into any reduction, if at all, in the future, we're more than willing to do that. We just need some direction that's.
Is that something that you need from us now, or is it appropriate to wait until next week?
If we do it now,
I think the sooner the better.
It would allow us to advertise in the paper and do everything else that we need, but there's been a huge outcry. We're receiving emails, we're seeing it on Facebook, we're seeing it on the front porch, that the community wants the spring porch and yard sale.
Yeah.
And I think when we have the opposite side of that, of people saying they don't like the traffic or they don't like the numerous amount of visitors in here from a safety standpoint of scoping out their houses. We just have to be prepared to stand behind that decision and say, we did it because there's a huge outcry for people that find value in having 2 porch yard sales a year.
So your experience is that the calls are more for the porch and yard than not, is what
Now,
you're saying?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But
I've talked
before,
to-
you
let
have
me
never,
say-
you have never received phone calls, and just to clarify, I mean, ultimately, the decision was a board decision
Yes, it was.
to not continue,
was,
to not
yeah.
consider.
I disagree with
Surprised you're
that.
getting that.
Well, let me finish.
Go ahead.
Right now, the events committee is getting blasted for it, and that's not fair, because ultimately, we approved the calendar, it was discussed in the workshop, nobody ever spoke up and said, no, that is not an avenue we want to say. And as specifically, all we have ever received, to Steve's point, is complaints about traffic, about putting up the signs, about the labor. So I want to make sure that we clarify the fact that ultimately, this was not the special events that said, no, we don't want to do this. They're getting dumped on, and that's not fair. However, I think ultimately it falls back on the board, and if we as a board decide that that's something that we want to do, I think it's our responsibility, it's not.
Absolutely.
So
I
we
think
need to
there-
take some accountability on it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
No,
But
that's
I think on the way it went through, I don't think it was a real clear vote that we made to get rid of it, so I don't think we need a vote to put it back, but I would like to discuss reinstating the spring yard sale tonight so that they have time to get staff prepared and get the information out if we're going to do it.
Well, can I mean,
Yeah.
I've talked to some people who are pretty angry, but what I have gotten after discussion with them is more that they want, they want the March yard sale, that the March yard sale is very important. They were not happy about how it was communicated. That was the second piece that they were upset about. But in terms of having 2, that was, to me, the least. It was more, they wanted it in March and not in the fall, and that, it really wasn't communicated very well. So that's I mean, from several very angry people, that's what I got.
I think
And
part.
I said, I support them, I agree with them. My vote was that, I think, one, I support doing it once. I don't care whether it's fall or spring, but I do think once is what we should do.
I think doing it, whether it's once or I'm sorry, if we are going to go to once, I don't think it should be announced so far after the one before that, because someone might have had, I've got this much in my garage sale, but I'm not going to put it out right now. I'll wait, gather another 6 months worth of junk, and I'll put it all out. And now if it's not in March, they're going another 6 months after that to go forward. I think the communication was probably the biggest part of the downfall. I don't recall ever voting for or against it. If you look at our events thing from the budget, it did only list one yard sale in there, but it was revenue neutral. And it really, I heard this, I believe, in one of your emails, talking about it coming through the budget that way, and it really didn't. We passed that budget in way too much of an item, which is I'll be talking about that in the next item here.
I'm gonna pause for a moment. I apologize, I'm doing this. We have 4 minutes, and we have an appeals meeting coming in, and we need to be respectful of all the people that are coming in for the appeals meeting. So please be patient with us. We're gonna try and finish this little, wrap this up really quick, and then we'll get to the appeals meeting. So I apologize. Go ahead.
Short end, it really did never come to a vote of the board to dump it. So if we are going to dump it or keep it, we should actually vote on it. And whether we need to either do a consensus vote right now or bring it to our next meeting and vote on it yay or nay, or even just give Steve a consensus over the.
And it's a budget item.
It's a budget item,
So
so
we
we
can,
can
if we don't have any objections from the board members, we can proceed with the March porch and yard sale. Then we can come back, revisit it, do an assessment of it, and then we can put an item on to do a porch and yard sale for October.
It's revenue neutral though, so
It is.
it's really not a budget item.
Here's
per
my
se.
thing. One thing I would encourage of the community, part of the decision-making process behind removing this spring one was because there was actually less people that actually sent through their registration
And
versus
that
the
showed up
fall.
here
And
as
it-
town hall.
so when we were evaluating the data as to canceling the March versus the September, we had fewer registrations and the registration had dropped off. So this was not just an ancillary, hey, willy-nilly, let's go ahead and cancel this, when it was actually data-driven. However, what I'm thinking happens is people put their porch yard sale up without actually registering. So when things like that happen, the community needs to take a little accountability on that too. So step up. If you're going to register for the porch and yard sale, please do so. Don't just put your stuff out, because then we get false data and make bad decisions because we don't have the right data point. So on that note, Steve, what are your thoughts based upon the feedback you've had with this? I'd like to see what your specific recommendation
I think we
is.
should proceed with the March porch and yard sale.
Okay, then let's go ahead and vote for it. All in
So-
favor?
I'm okay with that, yeah, but what is the deal with the October one?
And then
Well, we'll discuss that.
Discuss it
Yeah.
next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll
Is
discuss.
there any opposed to redoing the porch and yard sale?
No, I'm good with it.
That's okay.
You were going to say something, Jack?
Can we,
This would be sub-paragraph A. Steve, how much do you charge for the registration?
It's $10.
$10.
Okay, and is that generally for making the map? Is that what the
Well,
cost
it's
is?
the map, they have labor
The
costs to set up the
Okay.
tables.
all the
they have
signs
to-
that go
Well,
up.
what I'm saying is, let's
Yeah.
eliminate the map. Eliminate the map, drop the registration cost down to $5.
Jack, I would just say, just because of the time frame that we're in now, let's just run it status
Yeah.
quo
Yeah.
like we have in the past. Let's
Yeah.
reevaluate what happens after the March event, and then we'll bring it back to the board for.
Okay.
Yeah, because
No.
You also have to-
No, I apologize. I'm going to cut everybody off for a second here. It is now 6:30. Steve, what are your thoughts? We have two more goals that we need to go through, but we also have people that are doing the appeals.
I
What
would
were your
just hit
thoughts?
the highlights on those, and if there's any direction for what we want to look at for the next one, and not necessarily have to go down each bullet on those last two.
Okay.
Because I know Leonard has some comments for the.
He does. So, go ahead.
if we, I can just start on number 5 here real quick. And then, basically, we've used a lot of metrics for the fact-based decisions. That's the second one. We've also done a much better job at going through the budget and we had 150-something spreadsheets tied together for the budget that broke it down into quite good detail this year. Probably the best it's ever looked. But the downside of that is we're stuck with a accounting system from the last millennium that that is not friendly to getting out. We have great accountants, but not a great accounting system. That should be fixed in the next year or so, according to CCMC running their new systems in.
We weren't going to let you guys
Into
try
place.
it out. We weren't going to go through the kinks of the new system on you.
Just to clarify too, the goal number 5 was specifically to develop understandable budget and transparent cost controls and accountability, hence the CCMC review and things like that. So we're really getting much more into the actual budget and seeing what we can do, more importantly, making sure that all of our costs are more transparent.
Well, can I?
Did you have any? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, let
Paul.
I
Tim
want
do
to
the
mention
next
that. I
one.
mean, I think, I hope the community recognizes that. I think the accountability issue, I think we're doing, we did a very good job on that. The biggest one was with Davy Tree is that, I hope people understand that that all the grass that was replaced in all the parks, Davy did at their cost. And we are not happy with their service, their quality of service. And I appreciate Steve for really pushing this as well. And so all this work that's been done, you need to know that you didn't pay for that. And so that's a part of us. What our mission has been is to make sure that, listen, we have contracts, and those contracts are very specific about your responsibilities. If you're not doing it, we're going to make you do it. And I think there's been a huge improvement in that. My only negative that I would say is that one thing that I'd hope for is that we would internally with our own labor, I think there are a lot of opportunity for efficiencies in doing things differently. I don't think we made much progress on that, so I hope next year that we will begin to do that. So we didn't internally, I think with our external service providers, we did a great job. I think internally we didn't make much progress.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Goal number 6 is to ensure community standards are met. Improve proactive landscape maintenance, review all CROA-owned properties and bring them into good repair based upon community standards, review all property and mediation, refine initial contact letters to encourage dialogue for compliance resolution, increase covenant enforcement for non-responsive covenant issues, and review all of the common areas in the community to make them more aesthetically attractive. Leonard and Tim.
I think we did a great job of making the covenant process more friendly. I think we did a very good job there. We are examining different ways that we can fine folks. I don't think we made a very good progress in the aesthetic part of that goal, but that has a lot to do with the fact that we're really not getting the efficiencies out of Davy Tree that I would like to see, and that are the areas of the town that are the showy parts of town still have just plain old plants, which is what was not my goal.
Right.
And so, but overall, I think we're progressing.
Okay.
My only comment about this real quick, if I may, is the one of review all properties and mediation. I think the board's done an excellent job at that.
Excellent job.
Making sure that a couple of the complexes have now, are actually getting into the fold, and hopefully will be finished with we're no longer mediating with them, but hopefully they'll finish the last few things on their list by May or June this year.
Thank you.
And just real
Debbie, you
quick,
had a question?
in
or
the
comment?
fairness of being equitable, the board had asked for the service areas to be reviewed, and unless I missed it, I don't think I've received anything on that. Have you guys?
The next workshop in February, we have Susanna and Teresa are going to present the
In February?
update on all the review that they completed.
And if you have anything, you can send
We want to
Susanna.
make sure we wrap that up before the end of this.
Thank you.
And then the last comment I wanted to make is I appreciate the thanks that you're giving me, but I can't do it without the team, so I want to thank the entire team. We have a great team here, and they really work a lot of hard hours to get this stuff done.
You thought you did that all by yourself?
Nope. No. They make me look good, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. On that note, I apologize for the delay. We're 6:35, so I apologize for being a couple minutes late on that. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you very much.